The Euroyard today takes you back to 1968 as we revisit the eventful 1968 Eurovision Song Contest. This should be a good one, but let's review some of the housekeeping items first before we review and re-rank all of the songs. We have perhaps the most complicated Eurovision scoring system you will find anywhere on the internet. We score on a 1,000 point scale and weight the four major categories differently to prioritize certain things. A song that has good vocals is going to go a long way with us, but the songs that rise to the very top of the all-time rankings check all the boxes. Do we have any of those here? Well, actually, yes, we do, but we will get into that. You will know how we feel about each song, but did the juries get it right back in 1968? This is when we will consult the ESC Deservometer 1968, now the 7th year that we've used this. And its job is a simple one: to inform the world if a song was overrated, if it deserved better, or if the juries nailed it. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. Before we get into the contest, we're going to remind you of the Euroyard's all-time scoreboard from 1967. This is the last time you will see it in black and white for reasons we will get into shortly. Italy had a very narrow lead over the UK, with Switzerland starting to slip behind the two main contenders. Now, if you know anything about this contest, you might be thinking that a change is coming at the top. You'll just have to watch until the end of the video to see if you're right. All right, next stop, the entry notes for the 1968 Eurovision Song Contest, the 13th in Eurovision history. This one took place in London at the Royal Albert Hall. It was hosting gig number 3 for the British people and the BBC, who had the honors back in 1960 and 1963. Katie Boyle was the host, and this was also her 3rd time hosting. She would do it 4 times in her career, once more in 1974, another iconic Eurovision year. And through now, nobody has hosted Eurovision more. If Petra gets to do it again, she will tie Katie's record. The contest was on the 6th of April, 1968, which was a Saturday. Remember, in the early days, not every contest was on a Saturday, but by this point, it was the standard convention. 17 countries took part in the contest in 1968, the same 17 that we saw in 1967. The numbers would thin down quite a bit over the next 2 contests for reasons we'll get into another time. This was the first Eurovision Song Contest to be broadcast in color. It took a bit of time for the contest to get there, but it finally did, and it would never look back. All right, let's get into the song rankings. This was a fun contest, so it'll be fun going through them. I consider this a personal favorite. Maybe not the songs at the bottom, though, especially the one at number 17, getting us started. This was Luxembourg, and the song was Nous Vivrons d'amour by Chris Baldo and Sophie Garel. The song title means We Will Live on Love. Maybe those two would have lived on love, but I would have settled for getting those 3 minutes back. I actually thought this song was awful. It was boring. It was droning. They sounded like they got bombed backstage before they went on. It was just ridiculous. But I don't think the song had any redeeming qualities beyond the performers either. I think it was a very weak entry by Luxembourg. I think one of its worst. They've had a few in the lousy department, but this was way up there. As you can see, it bottomed out on almost every category on our scorecard. It's time to dust off the ESC Deservometer to rank its first song of 1968. This song finished in a tie for 11th at the contest. And the meters determined that even though it missed the top 10, that's still too good of a fate for this one, and that it was slightly overrated. Now that we got that one out of the way, let's move on to the song we placed in 16th. This was Portugal and Verão by Carlos Mendes. The song led off the contest, which was pretty unfortunate. The title, by the way, means summer. Here's another one I really just did not like. We had him 15th in impression and engagement, so I didn't like it, and I was uninterested. Even though I felt like I shouldn't have been bored with the tempo. Maybe not bored, but uninterested for sure. And then 16th in the vocals. I thought Carlos sounded really off during his performance. Portugal is a country that in Eurovision, I think, up until they finally won the thing, they got screwed when they didn't deserve to. Well, this one didn't suffer that fate because it tied for 11th. So it's time to feed this effort into the ESC Deservometer to see what it thinks. It has computed that the song was actually a little overrated as well, as it was kind of unlistenable and it should have been near the bottom. Coming out of the depths a little bit further, we get to number 15, and this was Norway. The song was Stress by Odd Bede. No translation is necessary because it means stress. As far as I can tell, he was stressed about catching the bus home and insomnia, hashtag first world problems. Anyway, my views on this song are a little complex. Is this song annoying? Oh, yes. Are the lyrics awful? Sure are. It's one of the most repetitive songs I've ever seen. But I can give Odd a little bit of credit because the way the song is written, it was quick and it was punchy. You have to have some breath control in order to sing this song. And this is part of why it actually ended up in the top 10 in vocals, because there's a technical aspect that must be respected. Would I go out of my way for this song, though? Of course not. At least it was unique, but unique doesn't always mean good. Time for the ESC Deservo meter to evaluate this one. The song came in a tie for 13th at the contest in 1968, while we had it at 15th. So the meter has said it can live with that, and the song placed about right. Up to number 14, and this was a duet by Monaco, and the song was À chacun sa chanson, which means to each his own song. And it was performed by Lean and Willie. At Eurovision in 1968, there were 3 duets, a good one, an okay one, and a terrible one. This was obviously the okay one, even though it came in 14th. The song was bright and a little folksy, if you're into that sort of thing. It was a happy tune, guitar in hand, and I respect that. I kind of liked it, and if I could have found a way to stuff this into the top 10, I would have, but the song did have a few issues. First, the vocals were fine, not really stunning, and there were times I think it got eaten up by the orchestra a little bit. Second, I think this was lyrically one of the weakest songs of the contest. It wasn't a terribly complex piece of music. The intention was for it to be light, and it was, so I get it. But, as all songs do, it must now face the eternal judgment of the ESC Deservo meter. This song came in 7th at the contest. We had it 9th in impression, but 14th overall. I would want to say that the song placed about right, but when the full body of work gets taken into consideration, sadly, the meter has determined that the song was a little overrated also. Not by a ton, but 7th was a bit too high given the vocals and weak composition. At number 13, the song is Switzerland, and this Italian language number was Guardando il Sole, or Looking at the Sun, by Gianni Mascolo. By the way, please do not stare directly at the sun without special glasses. I'm not a doctor, but it's pretty obvious that you shouldn't. Anyway, I'll say right off the bat that I thought Gianni had one of the nicest vocal performances in the contest. Dude was a good singer, so how the hell did this end up in 13th, you ask? Well, there would have to be other significant issues with the song, which you can see in our category breakdown. I thought very little of the composition, which if you read and listen through, it was simple and it wasn't unique. I also didn't really connect with it. Sometimes all it takes is a stirring vocal performance, but even though the vocals were good, the song lacked something. I wasn't bored per se, but I felt like I had heard it before and it could have been better. So now the ESC Deservo meter returns to assign its fate to this song, which finished in that tie for 13th in the contest. Hey, that's where we put it. So the meter thinks this song landed in the correct spot, and thanks the jury of 1968 for getting this right. On to number 12, and creeping towards the points, but not quite there yet. This song belongs to the Netherlands, and it was Ronnie Tober's song Morgen, or Tomorrow. Forgettable seems like a good word to use, so that's what it'll be. There were times, kind of like other songs we've had here, where the vocals got eaten up by the music, so it was hard to lock in on all of it. Nevertheless, I didn't hate it. We had it 10th in overall impression, 9th in engagement and composition, but towards the bottom in vocals, and that's what hurt it the most. A very middle-of-the-pack song, not as bad as some others, but definitely not a contender. It's not worth much more of a mention, so let's fire up the ESC Deservo meter and remind you that this song came in a tie for last place in 1968. The meter has decreed, even though we had it in 12, that this song's placement was about right. Not gonna stick my neck out for it. Up to 11th, the song that just missed landing in our top 10 for 1968, and we hand that spot to Belgium. That year, Belgique sent a French song by Claude Lombard called Quand tu reviendras, or When You Come Back. I thought it was a decently written song. It was rated 5th by us in terms of composition, but just didn't get where I wanted it to go in other areas. She got a good score in terms of vocal technicals, but the song was at maybe too high of a pitch for me, and I certainly found it dull compared to the other songs, putting it last in terms of engagement. Lyrically nice, of a little played out with the imagery of waiting for your lover to come back, of sitting here wasting away, that sort of thing. I honestly didn't hate it, but I thought this was a strong year overall. So if I'm not all about a song, it's not getting points. Belgium was tied for 7th at the contest in 1968. So now we turn to the ESC Deservometer for its verdict. It has determined that this song was just a little bit overrated. I wouldn't have put it in the top 10, but I don't think it deserved to be anywhere near the bottom. We are now entering the top 10, the countries which are getting points on the all-time scoreboard. With 1 point finishing in 10th place, we had Italy. Bella Italia sent Marianne by Sergio Endrigo. I would call this one pleasant. Definitely kind of slow, so it didn't hold my interest like a bunch of the other songs in 1968 did, but that's not to take away from his performance. Like Belgium, I thought that it was a nice composition. I didn't hate it. I just wasn't excited by it. Vocals I had in 9th. He did a fine job, and again, just not a very exciting number. I will say this, though. I don't require every song at Eurovision to be a banger or iconic. You do need a change of pace in there every now and then. You need slower ballads for variety. Some of my favorite Eurovision songs of all time are ballads. This just isn't one of them, that's all. So, what does the ESC Deservometer think? This song finished at 10th in the contest and 10th with us, so it's a bullseye. It's right where it belongs. Up to 9th now, getting 2 points from the Eurojard jury is Germany, and the song by Wenke Mira was Ein Hoch der Liebe, or A Toast to Love. I don't think the lyrics were that great. If you read them, they're pretty simple and repetitive, but honestly, I liked her as a performer. The song had a lot of personality, and so did she. I can't tell you how many Eurovision performances I've watched where I wanted the singers to sell the song and they just go flat, but she did not. Aside from that, I think it was a decent song overall outside of being a little weak lyrically. It wasn't exactly my favorite song of the contest, but this was a tough contest to crack the top 3, but it was pretty likable. Enter the ESC Deservometer for this song, which finished 6th at the contest, and given for us that it finished 6th in overall impression, 9th isn't too far away, and we say this one landed in a fair spot. Now in 8th place in the contest, getting 3 points from us, we have Finland. This song was performed by Christina Hautala, and the song is Kun Kello Ike, or When the Clock Strikes. When you watch this video online, if there are comments, a lot of them name drop one guy, Burt Bacharach. This song had nothing to do with him, but it might as well have. It had that great Burt vibe. This was a song I hadn't heard at Eurovision yet, and I liked it a lot. When we get to the meter in a minute, I'm going to have a few more things to say, but for now, I will say that while I didn't love the vocals, I think lyrically it was pretty decent. The song told a bit of a story, and the sound via the composition also really hooked me. So, you can understand my utter disgust when I learned that Finland came dead last in 1968. Bullshit! But in this era, Finland rarely got credit for anything at all. Sparked by fury, the ESC Deservometer is going to set this straight and say that Finland deserved much better in this contest. At 7th and receiving 4 points from Eurojard is Ireland. Pat McGeegan was the singer singing Chance of a Lifetime. It would not be until next year, 1969, that Ireland sends something upbeat and lively for the first time. Including this song, their first 4 in a row were ballads performed by male singers. Then, after this, they won't send another male singer until the mid-1970s. As for this one in 1968, it was pleasant, just like every other song Ireland had sent to this point. I thought he was one of the better vocalists in the contest, and it was one of the better compositions, but yeah, it was dull. As I've said, they can't all be bangers. You need a mix of both ballads and pop to have a diverse and interesting contest. So yes, I found this to be one of the year's better ballads. Not the best, but one of them. I didn't find it super dull, but did not catch my attention in the way that some of the others did. Yet, with how we score things, the very best songs at Eurovision check all the boxes. This checked a few, but not others, which is how you end up in the middle of the pack. Ireland came fourth at the contest, so that gave the ESC Deservometer something to consider. On the one hand, I wasn't really as taken with this song as some of the others. Then on the other hand, Ireland's only 3 spots off of where we would have put it. Then, on a mysterious third hand, I did think the vocals and musical composition were strong. In the end, the hell with it, this one finished in a fair spot, not splitting hairs on this. Now up to our song in 6th place, getting 5 points from us, and to us, this is a classic. The Dubrovacki Troubadouri members Lucica Purso and Hamo Hajdar Hodzic gave us Jedan Dan, which means one day in Croatian. You would remember the song right away if you saw it, because the guys came out dressed like minstrels. For that right there, it was memorable. In fact, we had this all the way up to 4th in terms of overall impression, so it was a particular favorite. And it's the sort of song that you listen to, even though it's kind of empty lyrically and in terms of vocals, you just feel good about things. Music is supposed to make you feel, after all. And I didn't know I had a place in my heart for 2 grown-ass men dressed like minstrels and singing in Croatian, but I did. Definitely one of my favorite Yugoslav entries in the contest. This tied for 7th at the contest, and we had it in 6th, so it's going to be an easy one for the meter. This song placed close enough to where it should have, so the jury's got it right. Moving into the top 5 now, and in 5th place and receiving 6 points, say hello to Austria, who hosted the contest the year prior. However, their singer was not Austrian, but he was Czech. It was Karel Gott, and he sang Tausend Fenster, or 1,000 Windows. As for the contest, we had Gott very high in vocals, 2nd overall. Not really a surprise to me to find out that he later became one of his country's most successful singers. The dude had a great voice. Even though I didn't find the song all that exciting, it was well written and well performed by Gott. However, the juries did not realize its brilliance. It came in a tie for 13th on the night. The meter is outraged and has determined that Austria's entry in 1968 deserved much better than the cruel fate to which it was condemned. Starting to get into some big points now, and in 4th, getting 7 points, it's France. They sent a former winner in 1968, Isabelle Aubray, and she sang La Source, which unsurprisingly means the source. I thought it was really well done from start to finish. It had a lot of work to do to get in front of the top 2 songs in the contest, which are some iconic Eurovision songs. But this was a solid effort that might have been good enough to win another year. The tie for 11th in engagement shouldn't really be surprising, but she sang well enough in both her winning year and this year. She placed 3rd at the contest in 1968. Aubray got on the podium once again. We won't belabor this. The meter thinks she finished in a respectably correct spot. Speaking of the podium, we now present Euroyard's top 3 for 1968. In 3rd, getting 8 points, we have Sweden. And I have to tell you right off the bat, this is one of my favorite Swedish entries in history. Claes-Göran Hederström sang Det börjar verka kärlek bana mig, or It's Starting to Seem Like Love. Damn it. This song had a great energy. It had a sound we had not heard at Eurovision and haven't heard since, so it scores highly in terms of uniqueness. Claes-Göran wasn't the best vocalist in the contest, but I actually thought the song was a more inventive of a sound than Congratulations, which is regarded as one of the contest's best. In terms of overall impression, I liked it a little better than that one too, even though Cliff Richard did finish a little ahead at the end of the day. I think this song has aged well also. You can still listen to it today, and it's still really catchy. He would end up doing covers of this song in later years before his passing, and those freshened it up even more. At Eurovision in 1968, Sweden finished in 5th place while we had it in 3rd. Is that enough to upset the meter? At the end of the day, no, it isn't. The song finished close enough to where it should have. So now you know that we are down to 2 countries, Spain and the UK. Spain won the contest, and the UK thought it had won, but that it was stolen. Controversy swirled around this contest as there were rumors that the Spanish government had a direct role in rigging the jury to give Maciel the win. It has never been confirmed, but Sir Cliff believes that this was his rightful victory. Do we agree with him and put Spain in second? Well, no. Much to my surprise, as the scores were compiled, no. We had the British song in second, getting 10 points, but we still say congratulations to Cliff Richard anyway. He has had an amazing career, which has transcended the decades, and in the end, he didn't need to win Eurovision to be a star. If you like the Austin Powers movies, look at this song. He's dressed like Austin, and the backup singers are dressed like the Fembots. I guess Mike Myers is a big Eurovision fan. In terms of the song, it was fun, punchy, identifiable, and just an overall good song for its era. Cliff had the complete package as a performer, and if I were a bookie back in 1968, I'd have thought he was going to win too. He did not, falling by a single point. You may have also heard this song in more recent times as well. If you watched Squid Game's third and final season, or series, as the British might call it, there was this scene where they escaped from the maze, and as soon as they went through the exit, they start playing this song. So, Cliff's work is still viable and important to this day. Squid Game might not be for you, though. If you don't like extreme violence, maybe just stick to the music if not. Now we turn to the meter, which knows all. This song definitely wasn't overrated, and maybe it deserves slightly better than second place, but we happen to agree with its placement, so we're putting it right down the middle. Then, finally, the number one song, our Deux Points song for 1968. It was the winning song from Spain, La 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 by Maciel. Interestingly enough, she was not the original artist selected to perform the song. That guy demanded to sing the song in the Catalan dialect, which pissed off General Franco, so they got rid of him and swapped in Maciel just on a few weeks' notice. A month before Eurovision, she was on tour minding her business, and then she parachutes in and wins the whole thing. This whole contest had layers, let me tell you. And I don't think Spain wins without Maciel being there. As for whether or not it was rigged either way, I wasn't there, I can't tell you, but to me, this is catchy and an iconic Eurovision song in its own right. I loved Maciel's vocals. They were pure and crisp. Even though the lyrics were pretty basic and repetitive, the song as a whole was upbeat and vibrant. It changed gears a few times as well. The song opens with its classic chorus, but then Maciel gets serious, and then right back to the chorus where she does that thing and she's bobbing her head. Whether or not you think there was some tomfoolery going on in 1968, this was a good song. And it definitely wasn't Maciel's fault either way. Este fue un gran momento para España. Really should be no surprise here that the meter is going to say that Spain y la canción hermosa de Maciel finished in the right spot in 1968. Those are the Euroyards rankings for 1968. So let's take you back through the top songs in each of the four major scoring categories. Overall impression is our measurement of which song was our general favorite. In this realm, we had Spain in first, then Sweden in second, and the British entry in third. Give some love to Yugoslavia, who were in fourth here, and then poor, underrated Finland is in fifth. Engagement is how we measure how invested we were in the song, and it takes into account both how exciting a song is as well as how much emotion a performer puts into it. We had the UK at number 1 and Spain at number 2, but they were tied with Germany in this category. At fourth, we had Sweden, and they actually tied with Norway. A song I felt had some issues in general, but it was engaging. In the vocals category, we combined our scores for how much we liked the vocals with the technical aspects of the vocals. And once again, it's Spain at number 1 with Austria and Karl Gott in second. In third, we have a largely overlooked Switzerland, while Ireland was in fourth and former winner Isabelle Aubray was in fifth. Finally, we combined our scores for composition and lyrics, and we came up with Sweden in first with France in second. The British entry was in third. Austria had the fourth place song there, and another overlooked song, Belgium, came in fifth. Wrapping this up is the contest endnotes. This still, to this day, is one of my favorite contests. Even some of the songs I had a little further down the top 10 were not bad at all, and a few I really rather like. But as you can imagine, it was more than just good music. The BBC gave us what was at the time the best hosted contest by far in 1968. They took a major step towards modernizing it that other countries, which would follow, did not, at least not right away. This was the first contest to be broadcast in color, and they made good use of it with visuals that we had not seen before. Keep in mind, it wasn't too long before this contest that they would be singing on a simple stage in front of curtains or a basic backdrop. The BBC was giving us projected images on a screen. That's one reason why Euroyard considers this a key contest, both in terms of the music and the stage development. The British were way out in front of the ladder, and this was for certain the most modern contest Eurovision had had up through this point. The thing that most people remember this contest for is the scandal involving Spain and the UK. And it's really unfortunate because this was a great year. I've watched this contest a few times, and honestly, whether it was Maciel or Cliff, I think both of them would have been deserving winners. And finally, we now turn to the Euroyard all-time scoreboard for 1968. And since the contest is in color, we have a more colorful scoreboard. The United Kingdom has taken the lead on the all-time scoreboard for the first time, jumping over Italy with 93 points total. Will they be the first to 100 in the next year or two? Stay tuned. Italy is now in second place after years in front. They did get a point this year, but they're stuck at 88. And Switzerland is stuck in place at 77, and France is starting to catch up at 62. Sweden is also starting to move upward, tying Denmark at 33. The good news for these countries is that everyone is on the board right now. Even Ireland is at 13 points, but they won't be at the bottom forever, I can promise you that. With Spain having won, the contest was off to España in 1969 for the first and, as of now, only time. Euroyard will be back soon for a look at that 1969 contest, but this was our review for 1968. Please visit theeuroyard.com, like and subscribe, and follow us on social media for all the latest.